Rocky Mountain National Park's timed entry reservation system is coming back for another busy season. Whether you need a permit depends on when and where you go. So in this video, I'll break it all down so you can plan the perfect trip. Now, the first question most people ask is, why in the world is this needed? They didn't have it before. Isn't this just complete government overreach? Why are they controlling access to our national parks? Well, before I explain the reasons for this reservation system, let me first admit that I've had a hard time adjusting to this system. For my work as a professional nature photographer with a focus on Rocky Mountain National Park, I'm in the park all the time, all year long. And so the timed entry reservation system impacts me far more than it impacts most people. However, having spent over 20 years photographing Rocky Mountain National Park, I understand the reasoning behind this system. From 2012 to 2019, we saw a 58% increase in park visitation. I think it was most likely brought on by the rise of social media. There were so many people trying to visit this park that visitors were parking on the delicate meadows and on the even more delicate alpine tundra. Toilets were overflowing, human waste, toilet paper, and trash were found along many of the trails in the park, and in some places the trails were so filled with people that it really felt more like a line at Disneyland than an experience of nature. Visitation was overwhelming the capacity of the park and its staff and ruining the experience of visitors. So the National Park Service began conducting studies, which included interviewing visitors for a couple of summers and trying to figure out how many visitors was too many and trying to find an ideal balance. Now, one of the things they realized during their studies is that there were huge surges in visitation during certain times of day. They therefore developed the timed entry reservation system to spread out the visitation during the busiest hours of the day and to put a cap on how many people would be in the park during those very busy hours. Now, although I really miss the freedom to be able to enter the park at any time, I have to admit, it's now a much more enjoyable experience when I'm in the park. There's still a lot of people visiting, but it is nowhere near as crazy as it was in 2017, 2018, 2019. Things are finally back at a point where everyone who visits the park can have a great experience. All right, now let me tell you how this works. For this reservation system, Rocky Mountain National Park is divided into two areas. The first is Bear Lake Road, which is the busiest area of the entire park. And the second area is everywhere else outside of Bear Lake Road. Now, there are two different reservation options corresponding to these two different areas. One is called Timed Entry Plus, and that gives you access to Bear Lake Road and everywhere else, while the standard timed entry reservation gives you access to the entire park except for Bear Lake Road. Now, the other difference between these two areas is when they require a reservation. Bear Lake Road requires reservations from 5 a.m. until 6 p.m. You're more than welcome to enter Bear Lake Road before 5 a.m. or after 6 p.m. without any reservation. Now, the rest of Rocky Mountain National Park only requires a reservation between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. If you enter the park before 9 a.m. or after 2 p.m., then you don't need a reservation. So, even if you forget to get a reservation, you can still enter the park and enjoy it outside of those reservation hours. Now, let me give you a few details about the reservation system, such as when it's in effect, how to get them, how much it costs, and a few other things you need to know. Now, the timed entry reservation system is only implemented during the busiest season of the year, which is late May through mid-October. If you come November through April, you're not going to need a reservation and can enter the park anytime you like. It's just during that busy summer and autumn period. The next thing you need to know is that a timed entry reservation is not the same thing as a park pass. All year long, winter, summer, spring, you're going to need to have a park pass to enter. And even if you have a reservation, you still need a park pass. Park passes can be purchased at any of the entrance stations. Now, I always like to buy the America the Beautiful Pass. It's just about $80, and it's good for all the national parks in the United States for an entire year. But if you prefer, you can purchase a day pass to Rocky Mountain National Park for $30. And these passes are per vehicle, not per person. Now, this is very important. While you can purchase your park pass at the entrance station, you need to get your timed entry reservation online, and you need to get it in advance. They're not sold at the entrance stations, and they're not sold at the visitor centers. Now, the only place that you can get your timed entry reservation is at the website recreation.gov. Be sure and write that down. Recreation.gov is actually not a government agency, but is instead an outside company that handles the reservations for the National Park Service. Now, they charge a $2 fee for every timed entry reservation, and that money is kept by them to cover their costs in running the permit system. Now, this $2 reservation covers one vehicle and all of its passengers. Now, here's some other important information you need to know. There are only 2 times when you can purchase a timed entry reservation, and the first time is on the 1st of each month at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. But this is for the following month. So if you want to visit in June, you'll want to purchase your reservation when they go on sale on May 1st at 8 a.m. If you want to visit in September, you want to purchase those reservations on August 1st at 8 a.m. from recreation.gov. Now, the Park Service sets aside a portion of their reservations to be purchased the night before. So you can actually go online to recreation.gov at 7 p.m. Mountain Time the night before you plan to enter and try and make your reservation. Just be aware they sell out very quickly. Now, I recommend that you go online and that you set up your account with recreation.gov in advance, and that you set an alarm for exactly 7 p.m. or a little before then. Log in, get your reservation as quick as you can. If you wait even a couple of minutes, you may be too late and they may sell out. So be on top of it if you want to do it the night before. Now, let me tell you kind of the process. When you log in to buy your permits, you're going to have 2 options. You're going to have the Timed Entry Plus, which covers Bear Lake and the rest of the park, or you're going to have the Standard Timed Entry, which covers all of the park except for Bear Lake. Now, the Bear Lake options are going to sell out quicker. There are fewer of those permits and the demand is high. Next, you're going to be asked what time of day you want to enter, and they're in 2-hour blocks, and there are only so many reservations allotted to each time. So if the time you want is full, you'll need to choose an alternate time. Now, once you make your reservation, it's normally emailed to you automatically. But if you don't get the email, you can download it from your account inside of recreation.gov. And you'll want to have that downloaded to your phone, or you'll want to print out a paper copy of that reservation to bring with you to the entrance station. Now, before you arrive at the entrance station, I recommend that you get yourself organized. Have your timed entry reservation, as well as your park pass, and also your ID. Having all of these ready will help you move through more quickly and will help the line move faster for everyone. Now, if you have the Timed Entry Plus reservation for Bear Lake Road, you need to show up at the timed entry permit checkpoint on Bear Lake Road within the 2-hour window listed on your permit. You not only need to enter the park, you need to get onto Bear Lake Road within that 2-hour window. And when you arrive at the Bear Lake checkpoint, they'll examine your reservation, and then they're going to give you a colored sticker to attach to your windshield. This shows that you have the Timed Entry Plus reservation for Bear Lake Road for this particular day, and that will allow you to come and go more easily along Bear Lake Road. Once you've entered the park with your timed entry reservation, then you're free to stay in the park as long as you like, or even to leave the park and return later. Just be aware that you may have to face the crowds when you're trying to get back into the park. There's also one exception to this. If you leave Bear Lake Road in the morning, you won't be allowed to return to Bear Lake Road again until after 2 p.m. And this has to do with reducing congestion, particularly up at the checkpoint at the beginning of Bear Lake Road. Now, here are a few insider tips that I think you'll find helpful. Firstly, if you did not get a reservation for Bear Lake Road, don't stress about it. There is a ton to see and do in the park besides Bear Lake Road. In fact, that area I think takes up probably 10-15% of the entire park, so most of the park is outside of that area, and I sometimes go months without heading up there. Go up if you can, but if you don't get it, don't worry, there is a ton to see. Secondly, I recommend that you arrive during the first part of your permit window. If you have reservations from 10 to 12, I suggest you arrive closer to 10 o'clock. This way, if you encounter big lines at the entrance station, you can relax, even if the line is a mile long, knowing that you're going to reach the entrance station in 35 or 40 minutes and be well within your reservation window. Now, if you decide to visit the park without a reservation, then listen closely. I think you'll find this helpful. I find that nearly everyone tries to squeeze in during the last hour before the permit system starts, and this creates huge lines. So arrive at least an hour before the reservation time begins, or you might not get in. On the other side, when the reservation time finishes, we have the same problem in reverse. Everyone tries to race in immediately when it finishes. Wait an hour and you'll encounter much smaller lines and have a much better experience getting in. Now, if you have a camping permit or have a reservation for a horse ride in the park, then those will serve as your timed entry reservation. You don't need to get another one. If you're staying in one of the park campgrounds, then you're allowed to enter the park with your camping reservation after 1 p.m. on the day that your camping starts. Now, I know that a few of you will have very specific questions that I didn't answer in this video. So I put a link in the notes below this video that will take you to a page on the National Parks website with answers to some of the most common questions. Hopefully you'll find the answers that you need there. I've also put a link to my website, RockyMountainNationalPark.com, that goes into more detail and has all of this in writing. You'll also find on there the exact start and end dates for this year, as every year varies by just a few days. And the Bear Lake Corridor and the main entrance to the park both have slightly different dates, but I'll even put those in the show notes below. While the timed entry reservation system is a little bit of an inconvenience, it has resulted in a much better visitor experience in the park, which I think you're going to appreciate. They've also designed this system so that even if you don't get a reservation, you can still visit the park and enjoy it. And I'm certain that after you've gone through this process once of getting a reservation, you'll realize that it really is pretty simple. Well, I hope you found this helpful. If you want to learn more about how to make the most of your experience in Rocky Mountain National Park, such as how to beat the crowds, how to avoid common mistakes, where to go, well, then be sure and check out my other videos. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you out on the trail, or stop by my gallery and say hello. I'd love to see you. To help you prepare for your visit to Rocky Mountain National Park, visit my website, RockyMountainNationalPark.com. For hiking guides, calendars, coffee table books, and more, visit RockyTrailPress.com. And when you arrive, be sure and stop by my gallery in downtown Estes Park. It's called Images of RMNP.